Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2, with one of the most creative players out there, the Terran in the red. It's uThermal, facing off against some of his only competition in the creativity department, the trickster in the blue. It's SOS. In a best of 5, Terran versus Protoss showdown between two masters of micro, artisans of aggression, connoisseurs of cheese. But before we get started, you can buy yourself just a little bit of lactose tolerance by smashing that like button. And maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? Yes, quickly. 1,660 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. I'll probably do it anyways because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than uThermal's as the first zealot is being sent across the map. uThermal, under the name Remarkable, solid name, almost a perfect 5 out of 7, but did not scout. The greedy Terran he is, which is a bit redundant to be honest, but the zealot being sent directly across the map, SOS realized, you know, I'm not entirely convinced that he cared whether or not uThermal scouted. Somehow it would work in his favor either way. But he sent a probe out to a conspicuous location, and right now he does not have a Twilight Council on the way. Between the Zealot, the Adept following it up, Zealot shows up at the front door, the SCV decides it's not getting paid nearly enough in order to deal with this. To which I say, you're getting paid, but a single Marine, 2 Hellions, but the Adept is shading in and things are escalating, getting hot and heavy early. As another SCV comes down, full HP, tries to line up the Adept and the Hellions. Well, the Adept with the Hellions incinerates it, and now the Zealot will angrily try to chase down the Marine. Not succeed in doing so, and a perfect defense thus far from uThermal. But there is quite a suspicious pylon on the other side of the map. SOS, chrono boosting. He's going to have Warp Gate at like 3.5 minutes. For reference, usually Warp Gate finishes between like 4:10 and 4:30. It really depends on how many chrono boosts you invest. But Hellions are coming in, and the gateways have yet to open up. That Adept trying to hold the door such as it is, but the Protoss have never been so great at such things. And well, they're going to try to get by. The Adept moves out of position, sips on the shield battery, but now the Hellions are in the base. And incinerating the probes, another Adept comes down, but well, the Hellions just drive right around him. Another one, a bit lackadaisical, finally made it across the map, but on the other side, a probe coming in. Stalkers warped in at the Proxy pylon. SOS going to sacrifice his own economy in order to try to hamstring uThermals, but so far, 8 probes incinerated. The Stalkers, Widow Mines on the high ground. Hellions just drive right back down to the low. And we're 4 minutes and 20 seconds in, and uThermal's already gone through an entire blaze of glory. Widow Mine smashes into the Stalker. Yes, the orbital command is vulnerable. Yes, there's almost... Actually, there are no units over here. uThermal does not have a single Marine, nor marauder. He has no units that can fire conventional weapons at this point. Besides, he has no units that can fire conventional weapons. Which means the Stalkers right now trying to be outmaneuvered by the Widow Mines, which is a weirdly aggressive yet passive process. Widow Mine drop is headed across the map, and remember, this was a straight-up 3-gate pressure. Not a 4-gate all-in, but about as close as you can get to it. SOS did expand, but he lost 9 probes to the initial Hellions, and now the Widow Mine's looking to get some more. Stalkers, Adepts coming in, but the Widow Mines will burrow it. Oh no, it's a disaster. He loses a Stalker, he loses 9 probes, and he loses just a little bit of my respect. But at the same time, uThermal, his orbital command was just hanging out while the Stalkers were wailing on it. It almost burns in the process. Both sides taking terrible, terrible damage. But uThermal's damage can be repaired, and the Protoss couldn't figure that one out either. So far, uThermal definitely getting the better end. A remarkable, if you would, amount of damage. The medevac spots the Stalkers before the Stalkers spot it. Air units have that slight bit of extra vision. And behind it, well, a Liberator doesn't rack up any kills, but without Blink, it's going to be very difficult to actually chase down. A single turret is on the way. An observer makes it into the main, which gives away the robo if he didn't know already. I think he may have spotted the robo by the fact he saw it with his eyes earlier, though. Another observer. uThermal knows he very likely has an economic lead. He very likely is in a position to just crush any attempt at third base. And, oh, well, this was optimistic. Just goes straight out with the Liberator and gets taken down, and that brings things just a little bit closer. Did he not kill? He used a scan, did not kill the observer, and then flew the Liberator right over the stalker, so ever sporting uThermal, trying to make this a little bit closer to even. Definitely an odd move, considering he knew he was under the observer vision. Well, maybe not that second one. Either way. Bit of a misplay there, and now SOS, he's going for Colossi. No extended thermal lance. Mine's further along, but with the barracks being relatively late, uThermal looks like he wants to just move out. He's not going to have stim. He's not going to have combat shield. He'll have a single medevac, 4 siege tanks, and he has to contend with the stalkers right outside the base right now. But overall, this is still a potentially deadly force. SOS is taking a third now. Though, it almost feels like a placeholder, as he hasn't been building probes for quite a while. Liberator trying to sneak into the main, a couple stalkers. Just a cursory defense. Observer spotting as the army moves out. And a scan spots the Colossus trundling out of the robotics facility. He knows it's real. You can't hide hallucinations under the scan. And the tanks will siege. Forces the siege up, buys himself time for maybe one more warp, and Liberator in a weird position, just kind of hanging out right over the pylon. The tank's going to get a little bit closer. SOS just going to come down the ramp. The sentry with Guardian Shield, the first thing obliterated by the Widowmine. The siege tank's doing terrible damage to the Colossi, targeting the Immortal next. Takes out one of the tanks. 2 more, but the medevac will slurp up some of the Marines and leave the tanks. Well, SOS will win the battle, but he's still losing the war. In the grand scheme of things, the Liberator denying the third base. uThermal of 14 workers. And, well, a third, command center is on the way. How did I mess that one up? Moving on. 5 racks coming together, but SOS hamstringing himself with that early warp gate pressure, and uThermal fought fire with literal fire in this sense, and found so much damage with the Hellions that SOS is going to need something very dramatic to recover. And just Colossi and an inferior economy are not going to be enough. The Liberator's going to poke and prod around the edges, going to get 1 or 2. Wow, uses a scan to get vision for the Liberator. Oh, that's filthy. Disgusting. And beautifully done. Because the Liberator doesn't quite see the edge of its own liberation zone. There's some quirks there, which obviously uThermal working all the angles right now. And it's a stalker. That one was a bit gratuitous, but here come the Marauders. Well, the Colossi standing tall, but the double drop gonna undercut everything. Dropping the base here, and now the Colossi trundling back. Everything's so slow. He doesn't have charge, he doesn't have blink, he doesn't have warpins. 7 probes now in the unit's lost tap as well. uThermal with a relatively minimalist attack. Forced to energy recharge the shield better, which is never a great sign. Extended thermal lance is done. 7 probes. uThermal's up by 20. So the only saving grace here for SOS is that the supply, army supply, no, the army supplies are still bad. All right, there's not much. Templar Archives is on the way. Now, if uThermal splits his army up into manageable, metaphorically bite-sized pieces, and SOS is able to deal with them 1 bit at a time, well, that is how I think he sneaks back into the game. You get multiple forms of splash damage, and most Terrans that aren't named Clem have an absolute mental breakdown, but the Widowmine drops are back. Colossi Working on him. Another drop. Front and back. The pincer maneuver. He's tearing through everything in between. But charge is done. +1. uThermal just rotating through the bases. And with no blink again, the stalker's unable to chase. Going up to the octo racks now. 8 barracks. Slapping down more bunkers in order to defend. And so far, uThermal taking command of this game, and it's going to be his to throw away, assuming those medevacs take the wrong path. A triple drop to the north and the south. Wait, no. That's 5 medevacs. Are they all full? Well, that is a lot of metaphorical eggs in one very fast basket. But dropping into the main in SOS, he does have recall available, though I'm not convinced that's a great idea. Only 6 warp gates at the moment. Can only warp in so much, and definitely not enough. Optimistic emotional support field. A single Colossus will topple. Taken down at the last moment. The main Nexus is dead. 5 probes with it. SOS unable to get any counter damage. And some of the Marines and Marauders will be evacuated from the base. Well, SOS technically has a 4th base. These medevacs getting cornered by the stalkers. Wow, stims his entire army, including the Marauders, out of solidarity to take down that observer. But a 50 supply gap. SOS is running out of cards to play. The Colossus is blocked by the Reaper wall, which technically is also a Colossus. Oh, hello! What? What? Blink's still only halfway done. Put your medevacs in, take your medevacs out, take your medevacs in, and boost them all about. When you're too scared to run on the ground, that's what it's all about. But I think uThermal has what it takes here. He's got the attack down the center, the drop at the back. Drop that. Jimmy, edit that out. That was terrible. Knocks out another Nexus. Knocks down another Colossus. 2 for the price of 1. The robotics facility could be next. And uThermal takes game number 1. And in decisive fashion, SOS tried his trademark early pressure. His spicy proxy cheese. It was one of the least original, least complicated. Just build a bunch of gateway units and see what happens. But uThermal, no stranger to the designated pressure himself, and responds in kind. Walls off the high ground and does terrible, terrible damage to the... What? Oh my. Well, uThermal will be breaking out our most dramatic strategy of the series. Let me introduce to you the Protoss player in the red. Remarkable. AKA uThermal. I don't think he played random. This is from Homestory Cup. Make sure to check out Take TV for all the live experience, and I'm sure confusion. I am reasonably sure he did not play random in this tournament. I checked the load screen. I'm thinking back 8 seconds ago. It was not a he picked Protoss. And he knows SOS is Protoss. I've just got 1 letter. Why? Okay. Well, that is... Okay, well, just let it play out. 1 gate expand. No, you're not Terran. He goes for a 17 Nexus. This is the probe staring it down, because technically you need the space right next to the gas geyser. SOS, I think, was coming in to double gas steal, because that seems like one of the... On any map where the gas geysers are right next to each other, you can double gas steal and really ruin the Protoss's day. It's usually best against Protoss. I'm reasonably sure SOS knew that uThermal picked Protoss, and that was his intent, but... Okay, well... I have no idea what he has in mind. Then again, it's Protoss versus Protoss, and I would be hard-pressed. I am not convinced that there's any Protoss that knows what Protoss... What is... No. This is an SOS build. No, you can't... That build seemed pretty good. Let me try it. SOS looking for it. What? I'm gonna ask all the Protoss players out there to rub both of their brain cells together and help me comprehend what I'm watching here. That is a Stargate. That is a gate. That is an Adept. That was an Adept. So, uThermal is doing your classic proxy gate. Wait, uThermal's literally doing a 4-gate all-in, but off of 2 base. Whereas, wait, did SOS spot? Nobody knows that anybody else is proxying. A uThermal did just allow one of... Huh. How the turntables have turned. uThermal gonna send the... I don't know to laugh, cry, or just keep my mouth open like Protoss never can, just physically. The Oracle will come out at the last possible second. Literally less than 1 second before the pylon was taken out. So now uThermal's going to be sending his stalkers into the natural. And the Oracle's going to be headed into the main. And 1 stalker's not enough to stop it from murdering probably at least half a dozen probes. So we'll see if he even cares about keeping it alive. He goes for it. uThermal has 6 stalk. Well, the shield battery should be depowered. But uThermal's down 7 probes. They both have sentries, which means you can force field the ramp. There's no way to break the force field. So I think uThermal will kill this Nexus. But the problem is that he's lost 12 probes. If he had 1 more Stalker back at home, but he wanted to make sure he could break this Nexus. Now the Adepts, well, Adepts can go through force field as shades, but, oh, he's gonna try to bait, but uThermal, a little bit late on the draw, had an opportunity maybe to trap those Adepts on the wrong side of history. Oh yes, and of course, a Dark Shrine. Now, let's see. Great minds think alike. uThermal doesn't... Oh, he's going blank, which is much more sane, and that might be a mistake. There's not enough energy for force field on that sentry for a few more moments. He gets it, he spots the Dark Shrine, and now we have to ask ourselves the question, do you keep the Dark Shrine? Like, the Dark Shrine existing, a Shrine to Dark is always a good call. Wait, Adepts, Probes, Oracle, Stalkers, Adepts, Shade, Shield Battery. I don't feel confident in doing much more than just saying the names of units and how they're interacting, because that is the only way that I can keep some semblance of control over my mental state while watching Protoss versus Protoss. It's like watching toddlers juggle flaming swords, except they're very good at it. It's like, oh my god, you're gonna hurt yourself. And they will. But because they're toddlers, they get back up and pick up another sword. And here we are. Disclaimer, please do not give your toddlers swords of any kind. And I am not advocating, because your toddlers are not nearly as gifted as these two. So he did, I think uThermal, he called the bluff. He thought, no, you wouldn't just go DTs now that I scouted the Dark Shrine. But the real danger of DTs are the DTs that you did scout. And now the DTs just shuffling past. The robo's not done. Force field. Oh no, it's a disaster. Oh, stop right there, criminal scum. Well, that was the last second. I think one more force field can do it. He's gonna grind through the deja vu. We've just been in this space before, knocking on the door, but this time there's DTs on the cyber core. He warps to the no, that doesn't help. That doesn't solve the problem. Robo's about done, but I think uThermal, you can't, you got a full asset, all right? He half-assed the cheese. At this point, you have to go all the way. And SOS quadrupled down by going for the Dark Shrine that got pre-scouted. And the DTs, because it was so dumb. Ah! And he recalls! What an exchange. uThermal blunks on the DT, holds it down. SOS blinks it back with recall, but it takes too long. And the observer gets out in time. So, where does that leave us? Well, uThermal never rebuilt his cyber core, which he's realizing now, I think, as he tried to warp in some more stalkers. Well, now, obviously, it's time for uThermal to go DTs, like... Duh. There's still some Dark Templar around. It looks like he wants to sneak in with this one. He's gonna... Well, there's no observer over here. This is one of those, like, is it 20 or 200 IQ plays? It really depends on if it works or not. If it works, you look like a genius. And if it doesn't work, you look like an idiot. But the line is incredibly thin, sometimes non-existent. Well, looks like the builds are starting to converge as eventually the more sane macro-style Protoss revolves around like Blink and then Immortal Charge Lot and either... I can't say it with authority because it's Protoss versus Protoss. Rarely do we even get this far. But either Disruptors or more occasionally Sky Toss. I feel like SOS is a disruptor player. Okay? For obvious reasons. Which means maybe it's just a save. Warp Prism gets away. Wow, what a save! What a save! Saving Private Templar. Meanwhile, the Stalkers try to chase, but no, SOS has real Immortals. Blinks and blonks out of there. One of the Adepts will suffer. uThermal's up 25 supply, though. Despite the fact it feels like SOS is the one marching across the map. But what numbers? What do they mean? All right? Now, if these Protoss players could read, they'd be very... Oh, yeah. All right, Hero took over control of the Warp Prism for a moment, gets knocked out of the sky. So the greatest threat to uThermal was just removed, and now he's going to move forward. He's got 51 probes to 39. That means SOS actually has a similar army. Whoa, 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 the blinks! Okay, blocks right into the Immortals, takes down another one, some charge lots coming up. Wait, no, those are just slow zealots. They're just... Here I go. The Stalkers. So he killed the Immortals, but the Zealots are the meat shields. The Stalkers. Charge is now done for the two Zealots that survived that exchange. One of the Stalkers is also here. Oh! Okay. So uThermal still has a critical probe advantage. 57 to 42 workers. But I say but I said but twice. No, moving on. It doesn't translate directly into potential damage. One, SOS has +1. Which is the most literal translation of one I guess I could have come up with. And two, it's Immortal Archon against just mostly Blink Stalkers. And Immortal, like, this is not an easy unit composition to crack. uThermal is either going to need to completely overwhelm him economically, or eventually find some form of splash damage. Ooh. Stalkers blunking forward, blunking in. Everybody's piling in from either side. A DT! It snuck back in. Well, it's a different one, but the idea is really the relevant part. And just like that, uThermal, the worker count has flipped. 52 to 48, 12 probes. Is there another DT? Yes, at the third. It finds a few more probes. The Stalkers try to body block out, but the most expected Dark Templar. Once again, SOS. Somehow mind-tricking uThermal into not being ready for those Dark Templar. And now some slows out. He recalls back. A disproportionate response, but he kills the fourth base. And I think uThermal has taken the lead? Well, he's... SOS? I'm mixing them all. All Protoss look alike to me. No, some of his friends are Protoss, okay? But how can you tell? That's the real question. The Stalkers just trundling around. They managed to find a completely open base. Takes out the pylon. I believe uThermal does have recall available. He does. Looks like he's excited to use it, though. That's actually too many Stalkers to fit in a recall. And now uThermal starts his Dark Shrine. But SOS has caught up. He's got +2. And this sort of topsy-turvy, tumultuous roller coaster of a game, you can tell that SOS is kind of dragging him down and so far beating him with experience. But uThermal, much more confident in the macro play, has more probes, which has translated to an extent to more problems, but there's still that War Prism back there. A few charge lots inside. It is 6 Immortals to 0, 5 Archons to 0. That is not an easy unit composition to beat. The Warp Prism is taken out, but a split second before it, the Warp in, he gets a Dark Templar out there. Some more charge lots cleaned up. The Stalkers trying to work their way around. But uThermal doesn't have any other options. He's warping in DTs. SOS is coming back to defend, but these are all delaying actions. There's still 2-3 DTs out there. The Archon almost targeted down. uThermal not quite done with +2, whereas SOS is halfway there on +3. I think the key part here is the reflex. The Terran player in him. Just the macro player in general. uThermal has lost 39 probes, yet maintains a 16 probe lead, whereas SOS, much more acquainted with limited economy plays, has only lost 4 probes, yet has 56 in total. Having less money sometimes means having more money. Have I mentioned Patreon in the description? DT Blink on the way for uThermal. Going to have both flavors. Just making things even more complicated as the blue balls from SOS are angrily pushing their way forward. Up against the slightly less blue ones from uThermal, the Archons. Ooh, one of the Immortals is caught. SOS, some of the extra Archons picked off. +3 about to complete. SOS with 8 gates, uThermal with 8 gates. DT's still trying to sneak by. Looks like he did end up building a cannon in each mineral line. And the Immortals, alongside everything. Stalkers. So recall should be available, but this is not an army. Like, you can't really deal with this army with what uThermal has. Are they fighting? Oh my. The observers are taken out, but SOS just kind of leaves. Meanwhile, I think one DT from uThermal just got taken out. He tried to sneak into the 4th base, but there is a cannon there to defend. DT Blink wasn't done. uThermal's 80 probes. That's actually too many now. Like, in this matchup, SOS is showing the way. 56 probes and just put as many units on the field and hope for the best. But here we are. Another base. +3 versus +2. 4 more DTs warped in. Those weapon upgrades especially important for the Archons. DT's warped in. He does have an observer. 2 observers. This base isn't gonna happen. Are we base trading? Oh no. Oh, it's a mess. This is such a disaster piece of a game. And a very standard PvP. Well, SOS! Alright, he pulls the cord. Here we go! Sound the alarms. Base trade. As now SOS is carving through the 3rd. He has the army to beat. In a heads-up fight, SOS, no question, wins it. But there are only so many buildings on the map, and technically, in order to win a game of StarCraft 2, you must destroy all your opponent's buildings. Unfortunately, SOS with mass cannons at his final base. uThermal's lost 62 probes in the last minute, somehow still has 18. What a great macro player. More like a Marco player. And gonna be playing Polo with the bases. But... well, there's enough pylons here powering this. Blanc's forward. If he gets the observers, he can win on DTs. There's still 2 observers for SOS. The observer battle is the real one right now. 1 observer on the back line. uThermal trying to make the DTs work. It's not enough. SOS wins, survives the chaos, and ties the series up 1-1. But here's the thing, is even as Protoss, uThermal, I feel, had the edge most of the time, but SOS just more experienced in studying the blade. The controlled, well, barely controlled chaos of Protoss versus Protoss felt like uThermal kept trying to bring it back to that. And I can speak a little on this from experience. As a streamer, you kind of get forced into being a bit of a macro player sometimes. Even if you're trying to be a cheesy nerd, well, between stream snipers and people who just know your name, yeah, you end up being a bit of a macro player. I feel like that's what uThermal. He suffered from being a man of the people. And we all do. So like and subscribe and ease some of the suffering. Welcome back, our Terran friend. In the top left, the Terran in the red. It's uThermal. Back to basics. I do wonder how map dependent it is. Trying to throw SOS a curveball. And you know what? I might have criticized it. Maybe it was I go up a game and I'm going to throw a Protoss at him. Maybe it's... I felt like throwing his gateway all in his face. That was a deliberate build. The quick Nexus into 4-gate, that was not like off the cuff. Or at least it was something he had up his sleeve. So... SOS with suspicious probe movements, but then that's most of his probe movements, so... This map, any map where you can more linearly expand, I know that sounds weird, but it's probably a little better for Terran. That quick air distance. Yes, you can go Stargate as Protoss, but the starport is a much more regular thing for Terran. SCV's scouting out, so definitely learning some lessons here, maybe. The probe gonna block the base because it can, though take some permanent damage in doing so. SCV will scout, will see a Nexus. But what can't it see? Can't see the second pylon. Well, actually, no, he saw the second pylon. Can it see why kids love the taste of Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Alright. When was the last time I ate cereal? so old. Meanwhile, casual pylon to the north, because of course there is. What's it gonna be? A robo? Are you sure you don't... You're 100% sure you know he's Terran, right? Well, okay, so this is a bunker buster build. You've heard of bunker buster bombs. Protoss doesn't have that sort of technology. Instead, they just walk up and bash things down. One immortal and a few stalkers, like... We're so used to this one bunker being the be-all, end-all of ending early aggression. Because Protoss players do not go for a robo first, because in most cases, it's just worse against early Terran aggression. But I don't think SOS cares about early Terran aggression here and defending against it, because instead, he'd rather do some aggression. Alright, the best defense and all that. As we saw in every game so far, the best defense has been a much more chaotic offense. And there's an immortal in production. This build is also... Well, most players have been doing it with a robo in their own base. Like filthy, cowardly casuals. But SOS has never been accused of that. The man who will proxy gate inside his opponent's base in a Game 7 of a World Championship. Alright. Or at least a... Well, the immortal will be spotted. And that is very important. That is very, very important. Okay. Having any warning at all is the key to defending this. Alright. So Warp Gate is already done. 2 Immortals out in front, though. I mean, 2 Widow Mines out in front. 2 Immortals are also going to be good. He spots the Widow Mines, I'm sure. Oh, the Force! Oh, no! Oh, rest in pieces, Billy. Bashes through. And Immortals, the same weapon range as Marines in a bunker, so... There's a Viking out in order to deny a Warp Prism. And speak of the devil, and it shall appear. Those Widow Mines not quite in position. Could potentially hallucinate some units to try to draw them out. Or use the Warp Prism to dodge them. I think that might be where we're going. But just in time, uThermal is going to have the siege tank. Oh, the Warp Prism. I think he spotted a glimpse. He's going to juggle into the main, but that Viking is going to force everything to turn around. And I think at this stage, uThermal has successfully defended phase 1 of the 17-phase cheese that SOS is currently fermenting. Next step, the charge. Immortals blasting through the mines. Observer with plenty of space. And the Liberator will siege up. SOS not reacting too quickly. But the shield battery will protect the Stalkers and deflects the Liberator with no losses. And the Immortals are blasting through, juggling in order to dodge the hits. Beautifully done from SOS. Only kills 2 SCVs, so not exactly the most dramatic thing, but continually being annoyance by this beautiful waterfall, by the way. Look at these water features. There's some fish down there, about to get liberated. But the Immortal... Wow, really? You're going to come all the way out here? A bold move from uThermal, and it may cost him. Gonna blast through one of the tanks, the other one's sieging up under the force field. Retargeting the Immortals, and oh no. It's a disaster. Charge finishes mid-fight. The Warp Prism is able to escape from the Viking. He didn't have nearly enough. Possibly anticipating SOS backing off. A Liberator at the back. Well, at the natural. A second Liberator added on to the first one. 5 probes dead. So, able to get some sort of consolation prize here. In fact, uThermal has an advantage in the worker count, even if he has a disadvantage in where he placed his engineering bay that walls off his own siege tanks. We've all been there. All right. Unfortunately, well, at this rate, he might not have any siege tanks. as the Charmed Lots make it down the ramp, gonna blast through yet another tank. The Viking has any amount of HP, which is enough to potentially just outright kill this Prism. And the Immortal, well, the War Prism is taken down. The Immortal's no longer living up to their name. The Liberator in position. The Stalkers can't hit it. Their little fancy Stalker toes just getting shot out by the Liberator at the edge of its range. Gonna even take out one more Stalker, and just like that, uThermal, he cleans up the Immortals. The Robo is still building more units. He hasn't been able to dislodge this position. There is no third command center. 2 more Liberators looking to set up a Venn diagram of freedom in the main base. But, uThermal starting to stabilize. And he's at the very... Oh my. Did he just annex this base? There's no safe place. There's no safe space for these Stalkers. He might... Wow. This is, rough. He actually unsieges. Gonna work on the edge here. Liberators in hot contention for the most annoying unit in the game. I mean, most, geometrically creative. It's not like we design entire maps around Liberators and the fact that they could potentially hit mineral lines without being hit by non-area. Deja vu. Did he fool me once? And apparently he will get fooled again. Oh no! He came down with almost exactly the same army against way more Protoss. We should have... By this point, you should know SOS. He has not been building up his economy. He has only begrudgingly taken a third base. He has only passively acknowledged the need for probes. What he almost always has, though, is an army somehow directly outside, waiting inside your unattached garage to pop out and ruin your day, and is not covered by insurance. Fun fact. I've been learning a lot lately. I don't like it. More Immortals on the way. And uThermal getting more and more desperate. A double drop sent out, and he may be able to slink by the Observer, but SOS now has 133 army supply. No, that would be a lot. I mean, it's Scouting Immortal. Yep, those are bunkers. The Spylons. It's like SOS gonna go for the gold. Or he just wanted to make sure no medevacs can get by. Either way, it looks like it's going to work out. Observer's taken down. Pretty sure the Spylon spotted the drops. SOS is backing off, clearly warping in. The speed zones will make those Stim Marines even quicker. Immediately cancels the base. But he's got to be careful not to dig too deep, nor too greedily. SOS is going to have 2-2. uThermal has an armory, but he hasn't even started. Trying to intercept the armies coming for him. They're shadow boxing on the map right now. Now, the real big brain move will be doubling back for uThermal. And he's using the speed zones to try to evade. The Robo is still powered here. But this is a... He's actually managed to drag the supply back. The scan spots the very edge of the range with the Observer. The Robo may get taken out. This is the only Robo. And, well, uThermal has once again put himself in... Oh! Not again! How many tanks have died? 8 tanks, all of them trying to do cute moves at this base. And SOS coming in piecemeal right now. The Bio Army on the right flank is driven back, but some of the Archons are caught there. But uThermal's army is scattered throughout. The bunkers are busted, finally. The Immortals, but... Well, it's a mess. It is a hot mess right now. And the Warp Prism gets taken down with all the Templar, but it's going to cost even more of the Bio. The supplies getting dangerously close to even. The boys are pulled off the line. And with just a few of them, he might be able to mitigate the damage and potentially bust through. And remember, that was with a 2 upgrade advantage for SOS. He actually ends up losing over the last minute, over double the resources. I don't know how SOS managed to maneuver his way out of a almost clearly winning position. But with great flexibility, he split his army into digestible pieces, and uThermal will thank him for the buffet. Again, SOS relying on his willingness to act rather than his actions themselves. The stalker's coming in. Blunks away. More pylons. uThermal just... His siege tanks. 6 of them. Liberators in production now. But he's gone from, well, the upgrades. The upgrades are a problem. Right now, SOS is going to have 3-3, which is a 4 upgrade advantage. It doesn't matter how poorly you split your zealots, as long as you send your army in their general direction with similar supply. There's no ghosts. There's not enough liberators. There's none of these units that can just wipe out an effective chunk of the army for minimal cost. In a heads-up fight, which Marines, Marauders, Medevacs, and Matanks are, it's an almost impossible. Well, but if SOS attacks directly into the Liberators and Siege tanks, with his Zealots behind his Archons, it's hard, like, the supplies are even. Anything can happen. But there are things that are more likely to happen. And right now, SOS is setting himself up to be too big to fail. He's got 10 gates. He's going to have 3 robotics facilities. Why make few unit when many do trick? The Immortals, back for more. Many of them haven't made it, but a couple have. That's not a probe. Marine actually going to rack up some kills. Almost. 3-3 is done with +1 shields. Extended thermal lance on the way. uThermal is probably going for his highest percentage play. He's floated his main command center to the 3rd. If he's able to finish 2-2, then this amount of army supply is much more competitive. But the Warp Prism sneaking into the main base while SOS hits the 3rd. Couple siege tanks in the way. The supply depots serving their purpose. Well, oh no, he's targeting the engineering bay. One of the engineering bays he built there because he walled off his own siege tanks. And how the turntables have turned yet again. As DJ SOS once again dropping the base. Extended thermal. Oh, the charge lot's cleaving through the tanks with no protection here. He will clear out the zealots in the main, but there's plenty more in the 3rd. And those upgrades are really kicking in and potentially kicking uThermal out of this game. I really thought SOS would be able to close it out earlier, but he eventually made his way there, despite his best efforts. He ends up losing 56 zealots in the process, but 15 siege tanks taken down. And SOS has actually managed to make it to match point. This could have easily been a 3-0 either way so far. What an explosive series. And completely unpredictable. I feel like uThermal keeps getting caught off guard by how wild SOS is. That has been a hallmark, pun somewhat intended, of some of the best Protoss in the history of the game. SOS, MC, parting, hero, zest, just a willingness, don't think, do. And that lack of hesitation. That's part of why people hate Protoss on the ladder, is because any random bullshit you cobble together in a cave with a box of scraps and a build order notebook from 1999, it's like, I'm gonna go zealot upgrade and then DTs. And I'm gonna shuttle them into their base. And it's gonna work. But just being in the right place even if it's at the wrong time, seems to be carrying SOS through this series so far. uThermal actually, and I rarely like saying it so decisively, because it's not always clear. But uThermal's clearly the better back row player here. Like, and that is his problem. And now we're on that Protoss favorite map, Pylon. The powerhouse of the Protoss. That probe, I don't trust it. No one's ever trusted a probe. No good things have come from... No add-on for you. Alright. uThermal does not care. He's just gonna move over to the side and build a reactor. Mildly inconvenienced, but the emotional damage. Literally just sitting there waiting until the last split second. That is definitely one of those things that mathematically, we've already talked about Protoss and math and how little those two things interact, but I don't think it's worth it at all. But the value of screwing up, especially the Terran's perfected build, is greater than whatever you do to kind of delay your own. So, a target of opportunity. A top target, if you would. He did tap the SCV a couple times, which means the Adept will easily two-shot it. And the Hellion's coming out, but the Adept gets into the main. You can't just leave the door open. Oh, no. And now the Adept is inside the house. And Terrans really do not like visitors. Okay, they don't handle social situations well. Or Adepts murdering their SC. Oh, another one! Oh! The revolving door of Protoss, BS, and BS just continues sending the Adepts across the map. And he manages to delay the command center even further. Well, every little bit of it has added up so far, but here come 4 Hellions. Just gonna drive right on by, melting the Adept. There's a single stalker in the main. The shield battery is not done. Probes will be dying here. 3 of them so far. And even the shield battery won't stop the line of fire as long as there's 3 Hellions left. Oh, he's lining them up! 6 probes! Almost gets another one. Not great, not terrible. Definitely could have been much worse for SOS. But, the Hellions getting it at all was certainly not helpful. And the fact that they get in and scout, SOS is determined. You know, the real win here is we haven't had a single game with your generic blink timing. Alright, the closest we got was the PvP somehow. Now SOS is going with your classic supply block into Immortal. He went Robo first yet again. This time the Robo's in his base. I don't know if he's looking for a bunker buster here. The Widow Mine drop is boosting past. He knows the Observer spotted it. And the Widow Mine's a trail of explosive breadcrumbs. Or just mines, I guess. The boost gets past the Stalkers. Not so good at their jobs. Going to be distracted by the single Hellion. Widow Mine in the main. The sacrifice is offered and not accepted. Prairie dogs it a bit. And it will cost him. Some more micro in the main. And, oh, just pulls it back into the medevac. And the mining time lost. Wow. Mules plus, yeah, Mount Mule. Running up a cliff there. The mining time lost adding up. SOS back to it. Even on workers now. Widow Mine drop. The mine barely in range of the mineral line. Sacrifice offered, accepted. Gets one more. I don't even know why I offered the sacrifice if he wasn't going to follow it up immediately, but it's a matter of principle. Pay the mine tax, the troll toll, or you're going to get widow mines in your mineral holes. You don't want that. All right. It's not good. Extended thermal lance. SOS just not caring about taking a third. Instead, focusing on having... get supply blocked again. 69 out of 70. Not a nice time. A full hard supply block here at 69. And, yeah. Did not even have a pylon in production. SOS is another one of our top tier vibes Protoss. Much like Hero, but without the ability to take 3 bases comfortably. Double drop loaded up. A cannon in the main. Anticipated... Wait. He may have spotted the medevacs. And does the watchtower actually touch the edge? Are you kidding me? It doesn't? Somehow the watchtower only sees... You can actually sneak by. SOS get chrono boosting into a supply block, a classic tactic. Does have pylons finishing. The double drop. So, SOS has managed to kind of soft counter this style by simply not expanding. Usually, the reason this works pretty well is because the Protoss is stretched between 3 bases. But he just doesn't care. The 3rd base, he might actually get it canceled here. Yeah, just outright canceled by the Marauders. Which, uThermal already has a 3rd base done. SOS is... Well... Again, like... Somehow less is more. He just doesn't care about the economy. Or at least doesn't value it nearly as highly as effectively every other player in the game. But he is building that Protoss composition that Terran players just struggle so much against. Non-Clems out there. He's getting a Templar archives. He already has Colossi. uThermal is kind of anticipating a big bust here, which makes sense, as he's up against 3 bases against 2. But SOS is just kind of slowly but surely working his way up the tech tree. The observer in place. I don't think uThermal spotted it. The army's moving into position. +1 attack is done. uThermal actually only has +1 armor on the way, which is an interesting one. Is that intentional? Does he only have 1 engineering bay? +1 armor first. Be interested to know the math on that. Maybe it's better against Colossi? I mean, usually the common wisdom is weapons in order to be able to use your mobility, but if you actually want to fight, in many cases, armor might be better. Another drop loaded up. The Colossi looking down upon, well, almost everything, but specifically the Marines and Marauders. A 2nd starport is on the way. 2nd engineering bay. I don't know if uThermal realized that he didn't queue up +1 infantry. The upgrades, if anything, may again be a sticking point. But the army supply, 107 to 80. Thing is, that's Archons and Colossi. Upgrades don't matter too much. That's just a hard unit composition to beat without usually some starport units or ghosts. And/or, ideally both. The drops are combining. As uThermal, there's not enough energy for recall in the main base. A couple Colossi nearby struggling to actually get into the base itself. Trying to get on top of one of them. Recharges the shield battery mid-fight. And this drop kind of, not a total failure, but definitely not... Oh, and wait, is that a Marine? blending in so perfectly. Another attack will be scouted out by the well-placed observer. And uThermal, he's trying to probe for weakness here. But SOS has so few probes, he's lacking in the most obvious ones. The common wisdom of trying to divide and conquer the Protoss, trying to bite off parts of the economy and drag the units out of position, doesn't really work here. Because SOS has already built the right army. And he's just filling in the pieces one by one. And uThermal does not have any more upgrades on the way. He's so busy microing his medevacs around. He has 14 medevacs, but only one upgrade. This isn't one of your challenges, uThermal. Your units are feeling very challenged to do any damage. SOS is going to have a 4 upgrade advantage. And he's pretty close to 200 supply himself. So even though uThermal has, by and large, more army supply, more economy, each one of SOS's units is by comparison much stronger. A near full medevac goes down. The probes, or I mean the forge rather, could be vulnerable. The Vikings slamming into a Colossus. And not sure how much bio is still underneath there. Thinning out pretty quickly. Another attack. The third base under fire. More probes going to go down. Colossi trundling in from either side. One of them going to be taken down. The Marines and Marauders. He does technically have Blink, but there's not that many stalkers. An entire fleet of medevacs conspicuously empty of any cargo. It's going to be 3-2 to just +1 armor. And uThermal just spotted. I know if you go back, and I assume uThermal, no matter how this ends, will be looking at these games from his perspective. But there's no way. There's no... That had to be a mistake. And it's going to make it almost impossible to fight this army heads up. But so far, SOS has done a remarkable job of fighting directly into Mark's concave. And now a planetary fortress will backstop this. EMPs over the top, as well as Vikings to chip away at the Colossi. The Ghost whips out another EMP, softens up the Zealots. And now as time goes on, it's going to get easier and easier. As SOS is nearly maxed out on upgrades, uThermal can only get better and better trades as time goes on. And SOS definitely struggling to make very much progress over all he kills. 8 SCVs, leaving uThermal at 69, which is nice enough for this stage of the game. 4 bases going on 5. SOS just hates building probes. That Zealot refuses to die. Gonna chop through a couple more. A lot of pressure being put on by SOS. And uThermal clearly feeling obligated to stay aggressive here. You don't want to let SOS build up that perfect army, but I feel like the army's already there. He's got 30 charge lots. 3-4 Colossi. He picks up. And he boosts for the main. Recall is ready. He pre-calls. But, what? It's like one Colossus. He didn't... Oh, no. And he's trying to get in. But he's stuck. Help me. Help me. Step Protoss. I'm stuck. The charge lots are blocking the Colossus. Oh, my. SOS. Putting Hero to shame. He's never found a winning position. He couldn't micro himself out of literally body blocking his Colossi in such a way. But the Zealots are eviscerating the Marauders. It is a 3 upgrade advantage. The Marauders simply cannot compete with this army composition. He's trying to drop absolutely everywhere. Vikings hit the deck, gonna kill even more probes. uThermal killed 11, 12. He gets to the back of the base. SOS scrambling to defend. 4 more medevacs on the way. Oh, the Colossi tripping over absolutely everything they possibly can with their fancy legs. Why do they even have legs, alright? They should be like a hot air balloon unit. Still some with tentacles dangling down like overlords, so you can still hit them from the ground to maintain the maximum vulnerability, of course. uThermal's finished up 1-2. So it's 3-2-1 versus 1-2, which means SOS still has an upgrade advantage. But he's down to 57 probes, making his army supply significantly higher, though I don't know if he's ever brought all of it to bear. Is that Colossus stuck, or does it just... Is that a house Colossus? It just likes being here. Meanwhile, this Protoss army has a lot to contend with. Guardian Shield activated. Dropping the... We'll call it the 4th base. Dropping the 5th. Probe's going to be cut down. The main base is open, besides the house Colossus, of course. But the natural being incinerated by the Colossi and dozens of charge lots. Recall is still 20 seconds out. The infrastructure is being completely obliterated. On both sides, really. Colossus gunned down. Pylon depowered. And now, the planetary fortress under fire. The SCV's on the run. uThermal's gonna have the base in the top right corner. And both of them hard supply blocked. So what are the unit compositions? When everything... 30 marauders, 31 marines, 10 medevacs, a handful of ghosts and vikings, but... a lot of the army on the other side of the map just going to target the Nexus. There's still 2 Nexi, both with energy for recall. The base in the top right corner was spotted. The SCVs and the dregs of the army are going to be chased down by the charge lots. And 1 Colossus, the natural predator of refineries. We've seen quite a clinic in how poorly Colossi, how badly they need to be babysat. The largest babies in the game. Following that toddler metaphor from the, or analogy for the pedantic ones out there, which is most of them. Hello, Terran players. Like and subscribe. The medevac's trying to come home, but what does home look like for uThermal right now? The planetary at the top right, the main base, which is almost completely drained of resources. SOS has 24 probes left, but he still has a standing army sprinting across the map. And there's no Vikings. There's 1 Widowmon. He's going to try to dive on the Colossi. Down to 3. Still building more, though. The Robo was actually not killed. It was just depowered. SOS repowered it in the main. Building 6 more pylons on pylon. And those Colossus swipes with the +3 attack. The upgrades have been costing uThermal so much. He picks up, a desperation move. Gonna try to perpetuate the base trade, but it's not really a trade when they're already in your base and you're halfway in purgatory. Honestly, an incredibly impressive performance by uThermal. I was kind of surprised to see him playing it all, and he makes it to the quarterfinals of the Homestory Cup, up against one of the most accomplished Protoss of all time. But unless that accomplished Protoss has a heart attack in his own age at this stage, well, even then you might still be able to play Protoss, but the medevacs, the recall, the last hope he's gonna target the Nexus. But I think it's too little, and it's far too late. GG, SOS survives. And shows he still has that killer instinct, that Forrest Gumpian Protoss style. uThermal in every single one of these 4 games, the better macro player. uThermal clearly making the right moves, but SOS making the winning moves. I think a bit of nerves, a bit of pressure, and a bit of tilt against the trickster. And SOS pulls out the winning cards. But I think still one of the more entertaining series I've seen, especially Terran versus... Seeing a Terran versus Protoss where it's not just blink timings and SCV all-ins. Shout out to both players. Thank you. Make sure to check out uThermal after you've watched every one of my videos, but still. If you want to see some more creativity. I don't think SOS has a YouTube channel, but if he does, I'll shout it out as well. But until then, thank you to Homestory Cup and Take TV. Thank you for watching. I hope I made your day a little bit better. And if you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free free, at least for now. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons bringing in the extra minerals, Big Jiggy, Devin, Door, Kate, Mario, Random Guy in Suit, and everyone. I hope you enjoyed. I hope I made your day a little bit better, and I hope to see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Thank you for watching. Stay chill.